So, John, welcome back to our unnamed podcast, which I think we're still pretending is going to be called Talking Fruit for now.
Fruit unnamed sounds mysterious.
Something like that is fine. Welcome back to Amelia behind the camera.
Hi guys again.
So, first episode, we went through kind of the whole supply chain idea. We went through fruit waste, or fresh produce waste, and we learned that up to 50% is thrown away. We also learned that every fruit is different. It's a really complicated world. So, looks like you've picked grapes for today.
Yeah, I think grapes is a really good example of where what we discussed before, which was this sort of good, better, best idea of the retailers setting up when you what you effectively call the shelves or the fixture. When you walk into it, seeing exactly what's there, and they can have a value proposition or a price for every single pocket.
Okay, so there was that phrase again, good, better, best. We'll come back to that in our discussion, and we also talked last week, or in our last episode at least, about where things come from, which parts of the world. So maybe you'll be able to take us through what do we have on the table, where are we in the season, where would it come from later, things like that, right? Is that possible?
Absolutely, and one of the things that's really important to recognise with all produce now, and this started, I'm going to say about 10 years ago.
Before you put one up the camera, I need to say something about where we get our fruit. Okay, so we are not affiliated with any supermarkets. I'm going to be really clear about that. But here in our little office, just around the corner, we have one of the UK's very largest supermarkets. So we're not going to criticise what they do. Anything we talk about is going to be all about the supply chain, fruit in general. You may well see and recognise a label, but absolutely nothing to do with them. This is not affiliated, etc. All we're interested in is how does that fruit get where it is? How good is it from a general perspective in the supply chain, right? Because this particular supermarket around the corner is probably no different than the others in the country, right?
Yeah,
except bigger.
It's a great point. By market share, of course, they're bigger, which means they've probably got greater scope. Okay, that is a reality. They're about 40% of the market, but that means actually they've got to do an excellent job. And there's a reason why they're 40%. So in terms of what they offer, the seasons, the varieties, they're going to have some of the best suppliers in the world, Graham, and frankly, those suppliers will also be supplying other retailers. So what it gives us is a really good representation of what's happening right now in the market.
Perfect. Okay, so nobody is allowed to read the label. What we're talking about is the fruit inside, how it tastes, what it's like, its quality. Perfect, and it's probably just what it is.
As the BBC would say, other retailers and brands are available.
Exactly. Okay, so where shall we start? Okay. How about this good, better, best thing? So how should we handle that when it comes to grapes? Is there just one variety of grapes? What are we looking at?
Well, look,
what should we do?
I went out with Amelia earlier and we did the supermarket sweep. And so what we thought was we set up a nice little test for you. Could you rank these just on what you see, based on the packaging, based on what you perceive to be quality? Could you rank these in order of that good, better, best tiering?
Best. Okay. Yeah. Am I allowed to take all of my own consumer worries into this, or is this? Am I going to be like professionally? Graham's going out grading. No, I'll do it as me, a consumer.
Do it as a consumer.
Nothing to do
it as a consumer.
With it's fresh, etc., etc.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So me as a consumer, it means I can be irrational. By the way, I hate candy floss, but we're going to come to that later because that's not part of good, better, best. Fine, so there are some obvious things going on here. I see Tesco Finest must be, hypothetically, more expensive. I'm going to say this is going to be in my best category.
Yep.
Green grapes, seedless. Don't know what type it is at the moment unless it's called Sugra 30 something, Autumn Crisp. Okay, fine. That's my best. Let me have a look at the others. Do I see any other Finest labels? Actually, it's quite interesting. This is the only one that doesn't say Tesco. It says Jaffa on it. Quite interesting. Okay. I'm looking at this, and obviously you're not going to pick up in the camera, but sticking up right here is a whole bunch of the stem. What do we call the stem?
Stem's known as a rachis.
A rachis. Okay, we are going to allow that as an expert word. But half the grapes have fallen off. So I'm going to say this is good,
It's sharp,
but it's not
sharp.
better or best. So that is...
Okay, question to you though: would you buy it if you picked that up in a store?
Oh God, no! It says candy floss.
Okay, so that's off your shopping list for this week.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't do that. And actually, look, some of these are almost. I'm not going to say they're brown, but they don't look as green as look. Look here. Look, you probably can't see it on the camera. Green.
So these are
brown,
bright. These are brighter, aren't they? And these are slightly yellowing. The colour is in development and
A
transition.
little bit late, maybe overripe.
Yeah, you got
Doesn't
it.
look great. This Lovely. So this is green seedless grape, crispy and juicy. Sugar 35. Sugar 35.
Now we're coming into some detail here, Grape.
Okay, no, I'm going to put this in the middle. I'm going to put that in the middle. I'm happy with that. Okay, I've got red ones here. Let's have a look. Okay. I've got some of that. Oh, that's what did you call that stem thing?
The rachis.
Rachis. Brown.
Yeah.
Falling off a little bit.
That's known as shatter. When a grape falls off the stem, it's known as shatter.
What if I shake it?
Yeah, it shouldn't come off. And
Okay,
if it does come off, we've got a problem.
We'll try that later. Okay, so this, I'm going to slide further down, because I've seen that brownness of falling off thing again. And I say here, I've got my 3 piles developing. Okay, I've got a test here, 2 colours.
Mix pack.
Mix pack. Okay. These actually look quite good. Oh no, that one's gone. No, what does that mean? That's split.
That's called slip skin.
Slip skin.
Another technical term.
And that one's actually wrong at the bottom. So I'm going to put that down in my not so good category. So there's
would
my.
you encourage the buyers to look at the quality in the packet of the grapes and stuff?
Yeah, I think a lot of buyers know when they buy with their eyes what's good and what's not. And I think what's interesting is even before Graham had identified the silver tag on here, which is the indication of premium, he picked it up and he had a look at it and he picked out a few really interesting points. I mean, if you look around it, we can't see any grapes that have fallen off.
Look, green. This stem is
Very
completely green.
Very green
Look
rachis.
at this one.
Yeah, that's
Brown.
brilliant.
Yeah.
Brown.
The
So this one is better.
So we've got a lot of visual cues here as to the freshness and quality of what we're looking at, which I think is really important because if you were to strip off the packaging and you were just, and let's put it in its most naked sense, just put it on the table, what would you prefer? Well, an element is buy with your eyes.
We'll do that next.
We'll do that next. Okay. Well, I won't
put it on the
steal your thunder.
And then we're talking about the grapes. Okay. Right. And I've still got this black one left. This black one. You know, I'm not necessarily a fan of like really dark grapes. I kind of prefer like the redder ones. So, but that's not a measure of quality. And you said good, better, best. I don't think there's any in the bottom. I'm going to put these in the middle too. So here's my guess. I've got best. Was it better? No, good, better, best.
Yeah.
That's my rating.
Okay.
Score me out of 6.
Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 cartons. So you've got 1 in the correct tier, you've got 2 in the correct tier, and these 3 are all in the wrong tier.
Oh.
Which is pretty tough, right? So
So
you've got 50%, Graham. Sorry, you're gonna have to do your homework.
So that's correct.
So this will sit here.
So that's
this
my
is top
best.
shelf.
Yeah.
Top shelf, and then these 3 are all what I call standard tier. So
Better.
They're better.
Okay.
But if you think of the type of varieties that will make up better,
I don't think about varieties yet. But we're going to come.
We're going to come onto that.
Okay.
And then at the bottom end, we'll probably have a mix pack here. I'd say that was probably. I'm not going to put this in the middle tier. I'm going to put this at the bottom because the reality is that in the mix pack, sometimes in terms of when it's packed, they're probably using up some end of runs.
Very cool.
And then, funnily enough, this here. I'm going to have to say this has to sit up here. This is a premium proposition.
Oh, come on.
That's interesting.
For real.
Okay.
For real.
Okay, so just so we're not being biased here,
Yeah.
I'm going to hold these up in front of you.
Yeah, that's
What do you reckon? When you just use your eyes, we haven't tasted them.
Yeah.
Do you see these as equal?
I think the one on the right they look a lot more juicy and crispy.
Okay.
I don't think they look too appealing, and I have to say I've also tried the candy floss ones, and they are way too sweet.
Wow.
Okay. Yeah, but that's our personal preference, right?
Wow. And you've got.
Maybe we should try some and see, is there a difference? And
Let's
again,
have a
let's
look.
think about bargains as well, because although we're talking about the supply chain, we'll get back to supply chain. I'm interested to know, can I save some money here? So I want to be trying these versus these versus these, and let's find out, at least for today, at this moment in time, with these 6 punnies, could I have saved money?
Well, let's talk about the price because I think that's really important. So, the top end tier at the moment, these 2 packs here, £2.50. I think this one was £2.70. And if you have your membership card, you can get a discount on some of this stuff because they'll offer it to you if you've got.
Let's not worry about that.
So this sits at the top. These here, 180 and 190, which that's sort of 50-60p cheaper than the top end.
All right.
And bear in mind they're both 400 grams. No, these are actually 500. These are 500s. These are 400s.
Well, this is 5.
That's
This is
500. Okay.
yeah.
Well, then therefore this is the most expensive then, because although this was priced a little bit higher than this actually has more weight. So if you're looking at it on a per kilo basis,
that's really small. Actually, I didn't notice that until we got
no,
there. Okay, cool.
it is rather.
And then this one, you reckon?
Yeah, and this one here was about 170, I think. So slightly cheaper than these, and also in terms of the quality.
I mean, like 60% of the price of that.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's find out then. Can we open them up now, or do we have to talk about where they came from?
I think whilst we've got these are called foil tops, we can talk about where they've come from, and this plays to the point you made earlier, Graham, about seasonality. So obviously we can't grow grapes in the UK, and I know that there's some nice sparkling wine varieties that are grown on the hills.
We are not so far from, we're in Hampshire, we're not so far from Sussex. I mean, are we not the
Yeah,
place where the very best champagne, thank you French people, is going to be grown in the future?
Well, I think English sparkling wine is certainly punching above its weight in terms of blind tasting.
Grapes, right? And this is the table
no table grapes, indeed. So all of this type of thing, these are specialist varieties that have been bred and grown over the years to be highly palatable. Okay.
Yeah.
Now people look for various things, and different varieties bring those various characteristics.
Can I stop you? I've noticed that we have a variety called Sugar 35 here, and there. So it's not just varieties. Look who's becoming the expert now.
So it's really important to make this point. So there is no, and this is really important, there is no genetic modification in any of these varieties. They're all bred through crossbreeding and hybridization. And where that comes from, and without getting...
We've done it for thousands of years.
Done it for thousands of years.
Nothing on the shelf in the UK is going to be like that, really. So let's...
Yeah, it takes about 15 years to develop something like this.
Okay.
15 years. And it will have its own grandfathers and great-grandmothers that it will have come from. Now, this is what's really interesting. So, the companies that develop this are known as the breeders. Okay. And they have the rights to use certain brand names. Now, in this case, we see one here. Let's go from the top. We see here Autumn Crisp.
Autumn Crisp. That is actually, that's at my local market sometimes. Super expensive, really tasty.
That's it.
Open the damn
top end.
Come on, we're taking ages here. Let's get it open. So Autumn Crisp, super good. So this should be. Do we have a chopping board somewhere? We do have a chopping board.
True Blue Peter fashion. Here's one I made earlier.
Wonderful. So let's just display. So this should be my best experience. Could be the candy floss, but I'm jury's out there. Shake it, John. Shake it. So did you say if it doesn't come off, that's no shatter?
Yeah. So nothing's shattering off here.
Okay, cool.
And this means that all these grape berries.
They don't touch them all. I want to eat some of these.
They're very well connected. I can feel it's still cold. Very little amount of dehydration on here on these little connective bits of stem.
If I could say, it's green. Looks like it's green, fresher to me.
Yeah,
is that true? Is that how it works?
Absolutely. There's a couple of things here. Number one is it's still got a lot of moisture in, which shows that the grapes are fresh.
Okay.
The older they get, the browner it gets. It gets more desiccated and sort of lignified. And you might better see that.
Lignified is definitely a banned word in here. Desiccated, maybe. I think we'll go with dried out.
Dried out, dehydrated.
Excellent. So may I try one now?
Oh, please go for it. Yeah.
Okay.
And the obvious other bit is, even though they've put these two at packing point, they've put these in to make the weight up. That would have been put in by hand. We aren't talking about lots of little individual berries floating around in the bottom that have fallen off the stem, because as soon as it comes off the stem, it starts to break down. It starts to have that wound, that puncture wound in, that then leads to it going soft and breaking down.
So, go now. Yeah. This is going off faster.
Here,
right?
there's some for you as well.
Thank you.
Okay.
That's right. As soon as you pull that off, imagine that now with a wound in, puncture wound,
so
sat in the bottom.
Can I go totally left field?
Yeah.
So when you buy cut fruit from extremely expensive places wherever, does that mean, since they've been cut in half, often that they're going to go off even faster?
Correct. Yeah.
So if I want it to last, is this my best consumer tip of the day? Buy it on the stem. Don't buy it in one of the little cups where they pulled them all off individually. Is that going to be better quality fruit when I eat it then? Yeah,
this is going to present to you a much fresher eating experience. Yeah, for sure. I mean, bear in mind also that prepared fruit is washed with an element of hypochlorite in it, the parts per million level.
Blah, 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 blah.
But the point is, it's not fresh from the tree or the stalk.
Okay.
And as you can see inside here, I mean, this would have been, if you look at closely in here, this would have been years ago. I mean, these are seedless varieties, by the way. So grapes normally, if you can remember far back enough, there were certain grape varieties that had big seeds in. Those are now being slowly bred out. We're not seeing so much of those now because these, complete seedless varieties are a much better eating experience.
Okay, so I'm enjoying this very much. So well done to whoever grew these autumn crisps, was it? So let's find out. One of the other ones that says the other name for the brands was it Sugar 35?
Sugar 35, yeah.
Which, assuming Sugar 35 means Sugar 35, so even though it doesn't say autumn crisp, it's actually an autumn crisp, like secret tip or not?
That is a really good question. Really good question. So how I'll describe that is in its most simplistic terms, and if I'm going to use this because this is the example that says Sugar 35.
So this one.
And that one as well.
No, do the green ones. Right. Do the green ones because then it's green to green, right?
Come back to that. Green to green. So. £1.70.
Open it up.
£2.50.
Give me 80p
right,
worth of
and
discount.
I'm going to show you why this is not in the top tier, and why this is only called Sugra 35, and this is called Autumn Crisp.
Go on then.
Now, if I use this knife as a way of measuring, if you look at the size of those berries, okay, versus the size of these grape berries.
These are all smaller.
You can see these ones are smaller.
Okay.
If you look at the colour of this ruckus framework versus the colour of this, you see that clearly this is older and this is fresher. So what I suspect...
So is this like best because it's greener, and this is good, better because it's still great, but it's not quite as great?
That's correct, yeah.
Okay.
And so for differentiation, bear in mind this is sold 400 grams for £2.50.
Yeah.
They've put the premium, best quality, best tasting, freshest, biggest
but
grapes.
Now's the biggest thing, right? Because I don't know about you, but I don't actually eat the stem, John. I eat the fruit.
Indeed.
So if you don't mind, I would like to try one of those next to one of these.
Yep.
And then let's see. I'm going to test you, my friend. So I'm going to ask you to close your eyes. I'm going to put a grape in your hand, and you are going to tell me
what
taste.
What part it came from?
By taste, which one
Right.
it came from.
Okay. Pressure's
So
on.
drum roll. Coming. Okay, here we go. Closed eyes, please. Okay, I will love them. It could be either of them. It could be either of them. But it is this one. Don't look at it, and don't measure it in your hands. Put that down. You're cheating. This is going to go straight in your mouth,
Right.
or it's not. It's not a test. Right. So we start again. You're cheating. Okay. So hold out your hand. Is this better or best? Straight in the mouth. No measuring with your
Well, I'll
hands.
have to taste the other one as well, won't I?
Well, I'm going to give you the other one later. So what's
Okay.
that one?
So tasting notes, there's a real balance of sugars and acids here. It's not such a sweet grape.
Not
I'd
so
probably
sweet.
say-
Okay.
In terms of sugar measurement, this is probably 18-19% bricks.
Blah blah blah. It's
Crunchy, a little bit
medium
sharp.
sweet. Right. Okay.
Medium sweet, but has a lovely mouthfeel, really crunchy, lovely. Yeah.
Okay. Eyes remain closed. Here comes the other one. And what do you get out of that?
Oh, okay, right.
Is that the Zenith?
The first one you gave me
Yeah.
was from the premium pack.
Yeah.
The second one you gave me was from the standard tier.
My
Yes
God,
or no?
he's good.
Nice work.
Wow.
That's pretty impressive.
And I'll tell you why. Pressure is a way of measuring freshness. Pressure was the same. But sugar levels, totally different. There is a higher level of sugar in the premium
Yeah.
than the standard.
Even though these are a bit riper.
Well, this is interesting. These are older and they're less fresh, but their sugar level is not the same.
Wow.
So when let's say the importer, who are experts, these companies, they are just brilliant companies. They have every level of detail and real experts working for them. They will bring these in and they will test them, and they will make a decision on which pallets, even down to the box, are going to go into here.
Blown. You're absolutely right.
Yeah,
John,
was
we're
I
going to
right?
have to take a break right now.
Thank you.
Amazing. We'll come back to more grapes later.
Thank God I was right.
So, John, we are back from you managing to... I'm not even going to say guess which one was which, because clearly you knew which is which. And,
Deduction.
yeah. So, we're already learning there are lots of things between what's a quality grape, what's less expensive, why is it less expensive. And I have to say, after you gave me the description, absolutely I could taste the difference between best, better, and we'll work our way through. In our last podcast, we talked about the idea that to have grapes on the table 365 days a year it's quite complicated. So maybe you can sort of say, where are all these from, and what do you expect? Where do we go next after this? Where do the grapes come from today versus November, December, June? So what's going on
Great.
today?
So in this example, and we've obviously worked with this retailer and we've made the point, we just have a massive, very large Tesco Extra just down the road. So it has everything you can possibly imagine. Really good chance to have a look at what's happening in the market. And they are supplied by one of the world's best grape companies, and they operate everywhere. And their job is to manage that patchwork quilt of supply that comes in through the seasons. Now, grapes are typically an end of summer crop, so they're going to be soaking up all the sun's rays, all of that sunshine, photosynthesizing, turning into beautiful sugars and flavors. And this is the time now, from between the end of July through to mid-September to sort of end of September and mid-October, that we'll see Portuguese grapes come through. So we'll see some Portugal. We'll see some Spanish finish off the end of the Spanish season. It's been extremely hot in Spain this year, so there's going to be some really sugary, sweet grapes coming through. And Italy, who are really in Europe the big players.
So let's see if you're right, shall we? Portugal, I've got here. Yeah. Italy, I think you said Italy, didn't you? Yeah. Spain. This one is Spain as well, I think. And
this one's Portugal.
Yeah, Italy. I think you said as well. So we're kind of southern Europe, end of summer. You said. Where do we go after that in the world?
Well, what happens after that is, this is the bit about the international supply chain, northern hemisphere, southern hemisphere. Imagine a relay race where they're chasing the sun. Suddenly, we don't have enough sunshine to make the grape sweet anymore, so that baton gets handed to the South Americans. Okay. And for years, this is going back to the sort of 60s. That has always been Chile. So Chile has come in. They've got a phenomenal climate for growing just about anything you can imagine. Beautiful country. However, there's a gap. And that gap is possibly 4 to 6 weeks. And this is where a newcomer came into the market. And I'm going to say 20 years ago, Peru started to put its little pinky toes into that marketplace, that 6 week gap. Yeah. And Peru is now...
when you say gap, that's after the finish of Spain, but before the beginning of Chile.
That's it.
So what 6 weeks is it? November is what you're telling me?
What we're talking about is, traditionally the European season would finish sort of mid-September. They've managed to push it for another couple of weeks, and then it falls off a cliff. And the Chilean doesn't really get going until November, December. Now, in Chile, they've managed to bring it forward a bit because they want to, get some opportunity in the marketplace. But that gap was filled by Peru.
That's filled by Peru.
That's filled by Peru.
So these ones, it is actually October while we're filming this now. So these have been stored for a week or two then, because we're not yet... pulling. Well, these don't yet say Peru on them, but we're eating them in October, so there's a storage component.
So we're at the end of that European crop now.
Big problem though, right? We talked about waste, and that's one of the themes of this podcast. I can see how it takes 24, 48 hours to drive in a truck up from Spain to the UK where we're sitting.
Yeah.
It's a little bit longer than that to drive from Chile. Or Peru, for that matter, and Peru next if that's the gap. So is this where waste and issues of long-term sort of shipping start to kick in?
Yeah, obviously in the what we call the near markets, they can get away with a lot. They can really push their quality and they can push their harvest timing, because as you rightly say, it's 48 hours with a two-man driver to get a lorry into the northern European markets and then probably sell it as quickly as possible. Yeah. But if you're looking at the sort of the supply around the equator, so you're going to Peru. And Peru is only 14 days away on extremely fast boats to go through the Panama Canal. They've got to be able to manage a slightly different protocol and process. So their grapes have to be maybe picked a little bit earlier. That's one way of doing it.
Oh, does that mean they've got less sugar in them?
Indeed, it means they've got less sugar.
I'm learning.
You're learning. They might be a bit more stable, but they'll be picked a bit earlier. And then they will be put into containers. Yeah. So think about, when you see those big container ships come in, it's those massive
40-footers.
40-footers, big sort of cubes. Now those will have refrigerators fitted within them, and they will be plugged into the electrical supply of the big container ship. So it'll be nice and cold and with a bit of ventilation, so the air's circulating inside as well. But that's when they use technology such as Ripen. Yeah. And there are other technologies available that will just give them a little bit more assurance on managing the quality of those grapes. So when that container gets opened up...
So why do they need assurance? I guess it's because when you pick grapes, they're not all the same quality. Some are a bit riper, less ripe. maybe
That's right.
a ship gets slowed down, or there was that incident in the Suez, right? That must have been a nightmare.
Great example. There can be uncertainty in terms of global shipping, particularly post-COVID. The availability of shipping space was limited, but also the type of containers that you need. The sort of what we call the reefer containers, refrigerated containers. But even inside them, you've got a living product here. And these are a very good example of great grapes, but you've probably all had this experience. You go and buy grapes that have mould on, and that mould is known as botrytis.
No, not in this podcast. It's known as mould.
It's known as mould.
So this is interesting, actually. So we've been to a great supermarket today. It's quite interesting how different they are in life, right? So this one, super green, and it's been looked after. This one, brown stem.
Yeah.
Do we do the shake test on any of these? Is that going to... I don't know if it will or not, but actually, look in the bottom. I don't know if we can pick this up in the camera, but we've got single grapes. Is that what you've told shatter?
Yeah, that will be referred to as shatter if you have a single one in the bottom. But I mean, believe me, that's not too bad. Let me just look at that grape that's come off there. What you typically see with shatter, if you can see this, is where that I call it a plug, technical word, pedicel. But once that's come out, it leaves a wound, and therefore you get grapes in the bottom. We've probably all seen it at certain times a year. You get a lot of that in the bottom.
Yeah.
That means they're not good grapes. Look at the difference in colour between the rachis of the freshest and most premium, the stem, and the brown coloration. You can see that on the camera, hopefully.
In my consumer hands, when I get that home, I'm going to bet that brown one doesn't last as long in my fridge, right?
I mean, look, the great thing about Autumn Crisp is it tastes good, in my opinion. It'll be gone quickly. But you're right, this will become more dehydrated and browner more quickly. And I think from a visual point of view, we've spoken about, it's an indicator of their freshness.
But what I tend to see, just like consumer eyes, you'll probably tell me I'm wrong, is that when this gets super dehydrated, dried up, all of a sudden, quite fast, my grapes just start to go brown and they fall off.
Yeah.
But that doesn't happen when I've got one that looks as beautiful as that. These will stay that way for like a week or two at home.
Depends obviously how you keep them. If they're in the fruit bowl in ambient room temperature, they're going to accelerate in terms of their aging.
Should we do a plug for ripening? Just for no apparent reason.
Well, I think this is now the time.
It is. Okay, so when I am at home with grapes, since I'm useless at eating them all on one day, I grab our ripened leaves, and actually I think these are exactly the same ones that people use to ship 3,000 miles up from Chile. I will literally take one of these and I will throw it straight in the container, put the lid down, straight in the fridge, and for me, that keeps my grapes like an extra week looking great.
Yeah.
And that's the nice thing. I don't waste fruit at home anymore because I can just do that. And it's as simple as that. That's now working.
Yeah.
So,
and without wishing to go deep down the rabbit hole of what is causing that.
Actually, look after these because these are really good.
Put those in there. What's causing that is that the grape stem is producing an invisible gas, an invisible hormone gas called ethylene.
Okay.
Totally natural, totally normal. It's what's happening all the time, all around you in the environment.
Yeah.
But what that does is it ages the fruit faster, and that's not just grapes. That's all fruit. All fruit produces ethylene. Imagine this is the mitt. And this is pulling in and sticking in all of the molecules of ethylene, and it's trapping them and locking them away so they're not interfering with the fruit.
Let's put out 2 or 3 of each grape here, and let's just see how extreme varieties get in difference in taste and stuff like that.
Before we do that, Graham, I'd like you, through the packaging, and bear in mind there's no holes, I want you to describe what you can smell.
There's holes in the side.
There's holes in the side. What you can smell when you...
Okay.
When you smell that. This is the candy floss variety.
All right. I actually do smell. It's like candy floss with nail varnish.
With nail varnish, yeah.
That is really.
Yeah.
That doesn't even smell like fruit.
Well, we've got some brilliant people who work with us who are PhDs, and they'll describe this in a much better way to me. But this is what happens with high sugar levels.
Okay.
And Graham, also feel the softness of that. So these berries.
Actually, let me compare that to another one. What's a harder one? Oh, these were the these were nice and firm, weren't they? So I've got a cotton candy in this hand, or candy floss, and this is the
Autumn Crisp.
This is a lot softer, actually. Look, colour, quite brown, quite green. What's going on?
Well, I think what's happening there is the sugar levels inside are much higher. It comes from a variety, cotton candy comes from a variety phenotype called Muscat. And Muscat is typically from the south of France, where it's commercially grown, and they're eaten in the day. They're sold in the French market and eaten in the day. They have very little robustness. They're great in the moment, but as soon as even when you put them in the fridge, they will start to degrade. Rachis goes brown and very, as you can see here, we've got a bit of shatter. Let's look at the shatter in here. Look, look at the shatter.
Wow,
Wow.
There we
that
go.
is like science in action.
Science in action.
So these have gone off because Muscat grapes ripen fast.
Very fast, high
And if
sugar
they
levels.
ripen, then they fall off.
Yeah, these are about 23% bricks.
But this was the most expensive pack, no?
It was, and I think this is about
So when I
creating a
get these
flavour
home-
profile that maybe people find interesting.
Let's say you are on a limited budget.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to move into, I think, the ones which were good. What I want you to do is tell me, if you were spending your money, which is the best value of these ones today, right now, what would you spend your money on and why?
I personally buy this range of grapes, but what I do is I have a look inside and just check that they are fresh, because the company that's managing this, they are global experts, they are world class, and what you'll find is that this is about a representation of the material, in terms of the grapes
fruit.
that come in, the fruit that comes into their business, and they make decisions on a daily basis how they're going to allocate them. So in this instance, they've got a lot of good grapes that have come in. They're all super, super good quality, but they put the best quality in terms of flavour and size into the premium. And then their middle tier, by size of berry, by freshness. I mean, look, there's a little bit of brownness on that rack.
A little bit of brown, being quite kind.
A little bit, being kind. A little bit of brownness on here. You can see, look, actually, it's a really good point. Oh, my goodness. Oh, here we go.
Shatter.
Here we go, look. So this is the mix pack, and you can see...
What are we looking at? Just describe it.
Yeah, we've got a little bit of bruising here.
Oh dear.
That's bruising, a little bit, potentially mechanical damage, but the point is they haven't thrown it away. This is about dealing with waste. They haven't thrown it away and said, oh, this is no good. We're not going to deal with this, the whole container, 15 tons of product just being thrown to the bin.
Yeah.
What they've done is they've said, okay, well, within a sort of certain percentage, if you look at that, would I buy it? Could I eat it? You've got a couple of grapes in a 400...
Yeah, so you might throw away 3 or 4 off that bunch.
Yeah.
But you've paid half the price.
But you've paid a lot lower money, yeah that's right.
And I guess we can't afford to pay somebody to go through every grape and remove each one.
Graham, you hit the nail on the head. Can you imagine with UK labour rates, someone sorting grapes? It can't be done. This is good enough, and if you eat that today, you're not going to have any disappointment. Because interestingly enough, these are still the good varieties, and what you can see in here. This is a variety called Allison, which is very well known. It's a really top end global variety. It's very popular.
That's the red one, right?
The red one, and the green one is actually our dear friend Orphan Chris, but it's slightly grumpier looking. That's what I'm going to say, because it actually would taste remarkably well. And I know that I'd rather speak.
So all we have to do then is make sure you get them in the fridge. Make sure you put your
ripen
leaf in there, and then this will last for a while, so you can eat them nicely. We're in good shape. I think we've covered a lot about grapes today. I've certainly learnt quite a bit.
I was going to ask you just to gobble one of those up. Now you've eaten some of the others, and tell me what you think, because it's a taste for every palate, really, isn't it?
It feels, and you're probably going to tell me I'm wrong, like it's waterier, less sweet. Actually, there's also a tartar skin. Is what I felt
there's
like.
Sort of a drier, isn't there?
Yeah. Let me try a light red versus a dark red here and see. Yeah, definitely quite different. So, what did you say? Is this lower bricks than this one?
Lower bricks. So, if, for example, you want to manage your sugars and you want something that's has a bit more fibre, and the colour, by the way, is called anthocyanin, so it's actually an antioxidant. So the black grapes, the dark coloured grapes, are actually better for you. There's more nutrient in them. The green grapes are sweeter, higher sugar levels. So it's just a little bit of a grape factoid
to finish on. So I guess, John, thank you again for letting us dive into your expert knowledge, and we'll be back sometime with another episode, and I guess you'll pick another fruit for us.
Great. Yeah, I think it's a really good opportunity to talk about some of the stuff in the supply chain that people wouldn't be aware of and try and bring the stories to life.
Very cool. All right. Thanks, John.